Okay, everyone. Welcome to I think it's our fourth installment in the Millage Mondays. Now, without further ado, today we are talking about yes committees and the do's and don'ts of yes committees. And with us today, we have returning the Millage Queen, Shirley Bursima. Many of you know Shirley. Shirley has helped innumerable libraries across the state in her many years of being a consultant, a Millage consultant, and a board consultant. Shirley also is a former chair and former member of the Kent District Library Board, where she served for, I'm not going to say how many years, but she has lots of experience. Let us say that. The last thing that I'm going to say is that, and there is a slide on the slides, is again, this is information. It is not legal advice. Shirley is extremely knowledgeable, but cannot be your attorney, cannot be your millage attorney. So if you have any questions or you need some further assistance in creating your millage document, we strongly suggest that you talk to your library attorney. Okay, Shirley, I'm going to pass things on to you.
Good afternoon to each and every one of you. It looks like we got a really good group on today. I'm honored and humbled to be asked to present some of the um, work that goes into putting together a yes committee. And we call it a yes committee because that's what we want when the day is done on election day, is that everybody or enough said yes so that we have accomplished what we set out to do. A yes committee is from the community. There are different players. It can be board members, it can be friends from the friends group. I always suggest that someone from the homeschoolers group be a participant because they are very much in need of using the library. And then there is staff can get involved, but only off premises. They cannot be a part of the yes committee where at the library they tell people to vote yes. So there's any number of ways that you can be a participant. The yes committee is pretty much made up of people of the community who's um, just in love with libraries, as I am. I've been doing this over 25 years. I was on the KDL board over 25. I was on the Lakeland Co-op over 32. So I love libraries. My family accuses me of bleeding books. So while I never have time to read, we know that many people do, and that they are definitely um, out there that need the library. As you know, the library is the heartbeat of your community, the backbone. In fact, in some communities, the only other building in the community, but we're glad that no matter the size, they have a library. So it is very important that your yes committee be involved, folks that use the library, that love the library. The director a lot of times knows who they are and can suggest names or have people ask each other, would you like to serve on the committee? A normal committee is about 6, 8, 10 at the most, depending on the size of the library. And I'm talking district libraries, county libraries, where you have a lot of branches. For instance, KDL has 20 branches. So it takes and is a district library and is in such needs a larger yes committee. But along with that yes committee comes a lot of subcommittees, like putting out signs or going door to door or doing phoning. If you do that, we rarely do phoning anymore. But there are a number of ways that people can participate. We advocate summer because there's a lot of opportunity for a yes committee to be out and be visible, to um, walk in parades, to have booths up at the farmers market. There's any number of ways that you can be an advertisement for a yes committee and for a yes vote. In Michigan, we have over 400 libraries, so it would take a lot of yes committees to provide funding. Obviously, 99% of those libraries are funded with millages, and that is the role of your yes committee, is your millage campaign. And that is something that has been driven by the board. They decide a year, usually a year out. Sometimes I've had them decide 2 years out. And by the way, I've won 160 of these millages. Some are repetitious. There's over 100 or a half dozen that I have done several times. They go for 10 years and then they come back again. But there is a a list of things that goes with, I'll say, a year or two out, where you're going to, or the board is going to um, remind the or the director's going to remind the board it's getting time for millage. Are we going to increase the millage? And you work on a budget, you decide what you've done in the past, what you want to continue to do in the future, and how much do we want to do a millage for? Remember, doing a millage with an increase is more work, and more people get involved with that. But make sure you and your director have put together a budget so that you know this is what we've collected the last, say, 10 years. Some will go up to 20, but very few. And usually those are for bond issues where you're building buildings or remodeling, doing a lot of changing. Otherwise, a lot of them are 10 years. And this is something you start a year or two out so that when the 10th year is up, you're ready to go into the next millage. And you draft the ballot language together with everything that you feel you need to do to improve your library. And obviously, a lot of improvements can be scheduled into these millages because, after all, you want to continue to work with the 21st century, going to the 22nd century. You want to be on top of all the new and modern. A lot of it is technology. You need additional technology every year. You need more space. The books. There's just so many things that go into the library. So you want to draft the ballot language. You want an attorney to, a library attorney preferably, to read it over, to uh, make any corrections that he or she feels is necessary. And it goes back to the board for a vote. And that, yes, we want to do this. Now, do you want to do it as a committee only? Do you want a coach, which is what in my case, I call myself a coach. And I'm not a one of these that gets up there and dictates. I have a set of ideas that a yes committee should use, and that's how we got the 160 wins. Most of them used them. And there are rules that go with being a yes committee. We are it behooves us to have a yes committee that is very interested in the library and improving the library. We have several officers that go with the yes committee, one being the chair. Probably the most important one is your treasurer. The treasurer's job is very widespread. Not only people helping collect the funds, you cannot use library funds for a yes committee, but you want to help collect funds to do your printing, to do your signs, to do a number of things that is involved with being a yes committee. You also want to become involved in with a secretary to keep minutes. If I am coaching you, I request copies of those minutes because I feel that if something has gone awry, we can stop it right there so that we don't make any mistakes. There is a lot of legal issues that go with being a yes committee too. It's just not freelance. Um, After the millage or the ballot language has been approved, it needs to be gotten on the ballot. And all of these have timetables, very important timetables that your county clerk is the one that where the election chair is. I talked to mine this morning here in Kent County. They are a wealth of information. They know the dates, and you want to make sure you follow those dates. There's also paperwork that is online you can fill out, and it goes back in a timely manner. Some are 2 weeks, some are 3 weeks. The treasurer is the one whose name is on the mailing list as treasurer, not the first name, but treasurer of. Oh, and the other thing is you want a name for your campaign. There's been some really clever names thought up out there. And the committee, once they're formed, can form a name, like books for so and so or um, different, just a whole bunch. I should have dug some out so I could give you. Some of them are really kind of cute that are, but that is the address of the um, committee is the treasurer's address. And it's the name at the head is not his or her name. It is the name of this that you have chosen for the committee, and then the treasurer's address, so that you um, all correspondence goes to the treasurer. They sorry about that. They also send out receipts for money that is donated. Everybody participates in donations. The staff can participate, the board can participate. My phone doesn't want to shut off, they want to be online. Um, Everybody is a participant, and no matter how large or how small, however, there has to be a receipt written in this form that the county will give you anything over $100. So that is another job of the treasurer. The treasurer really has, I was treasurer several times. So um, we need to um, make sure that and we have three on chat. Should we take those, Claire, do you think? Um, Anyway, that is the biggest position. Then there will be another one who's in charge of signs, another one or several, who's in charge of writing the material that you're going to have in hand to hand out. I recommend as soon as the committee is formed and some material is ready for handout, that you meet with entities within that community. Them being the school. First thing you want to do is contact the school. Maybe they're going to do a millage that same date, so you want to be aware of that. And the Rotary, the Chamber. So ask to be on their agenda for just 2 or 3 minutes. Take your copies of your brochures that you have put together, put some in writing and pictures and some accomplishments the last few years. There's a lot you can put in those brochures to advertise what a plus your library is. And you're going to carry them with you. What I usually recommend that you go to the meetings with is the board chair, the director, and the chair of the Yes Committee. Some communities also have a honorary chair, which is someone real popular in the community. They just will freelance out there. They don't necessarily have they participate with the committee if they want to, but they don't have a sitting assignment. They just will really pursue and push the millage campaign. So if you're a bigger library or even smaller, you could have a um, person out there who is willing to be a vocal spot for you.
Hey, Shirley.
Yes.
So I've typed a couple things into the chat. They aren't questions. Just to clarify that the ballot question committee is the yes committee. Um, would you mind clarifying the lines between the library director and their role as library director and the millage and the yes committee?
The library director attends all yes committee meetings. And by the way, the yes committee cannot meet at the library. They have to meet off-site. But the library director is a listening partner and can interject language that would go in those brochures. She has all the information. She has the numbers that go with the financial uh, part of the library. So she is an that if you got 8 member committee, she's that ninth member that
But
comes to the committees.
but you want to be careful, like, harking back to Anne last week, the lines between the library and the yes committee have to be solid. The yes committee, the library pays the director, right? And so
Correct.
the director can supply factual information to the yes committee, but the director cannot draft the committee's brochures.
No, no.
Um,
She
and
might have or he might have information
correct.
that they could use, but no, she does not do that.
Correct. And if she goes to a millet, like you said, like a Rotary or they can do that in their role as library director. A lot of directors do that now. But again, you have to be careful not to campaign, right? You can't
Right.
say vote
Yeah.
for the library. You can't say you have to keep it very factual and leave it to your yes committee to talk to Rotary and be the cheerleaders.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I recommend that just the yes committee goes to those meetings. You're there to inform them what you're doing, why you're doing it, and mostly when you're doing it, so that you'll also find out, oh, we were going to do a millage then also, and you didn't know about it till you met with them. They didn't know that the library time was to do a new millage. So it's more of an informative thing by the Yes Committee to attend these meetings. Uh,
so Rosie Richardson asks if the entire board can be on the millage committee. Um, I want to just specify yes, but and I'm gonna let Shirley. But the thing to remember, Rosie, is they cannot be on the millage committee as board members. They can
Right.
be on the millage committee as individual citizens because everybody has a right to participate in the process, but they cannot be on the millage committee and be, I'm a board member. They
Yeah.
have to be as an individual, and it's strongly recommended that they are not officers. They are not the treasurer. They are not the president. They are not the drivers of the bus.
Thank you,
Shirley,
Claire. That's exactly what I say. They cannot be officers. And no, they should not, the whole board should not be on the committee whatsoever. If there's someone on the board that is willing and wants to participate, that's one thing. But no, we want a wide spectrum of the community. This is a time to involve your community and that they participate in what is going on as far as the library. So no, there are a number of other folks out there that should be on the committee, and that keeps it much more transparent, much more open. I think that yeah, to the point that should be and there's some groups that have just the friends do it too, but that's few and far between. I also stress that if you are a bilingual, have a lot of bilingual of one nature or another in a community, that you have someone from that ethnic group on your committee. That way they have the knowledge of how to reach their folks. Are they registered to vote? You know, there's a lot of things that go into that also. So I think that it is important that no,
so
rare that the board even wants to be on the committee. That but
so
no,
Shirley, if the board or in is not on the is not the chair of the committee, um, which in a lot of especially smaller libraries is kind of like the assumption is that yes, there's in any small community there's only five people that volunteer for everything, right? So they're on the church board, they're on the library board. Um, who should be the chair of the committee if not library people, staff, director, board? Who do you recommend that the library go look for?
I recommend the committee get together and that from those that have indicated they're willing to work on the committee, at that point in time, a chair is chosen. Now, I have been to some of these when they asked me to be their coach, and sometimes we'll sit there a little while and nobody's going to volunteer to be chair. And I can pick up from listening to people talk. And so finally, I'll say, why don't you be chair? I think you'd be a good chair. And it works every time. So that's how we pick some of our chairs. And treasure, same thing. I think a lot of times it's treasures from the friends group or sometimes the treasure from the board. But that's actually the ones that know, the need of the library also. So, but that's how, yeah, I've never ever had. I have had where they were deadlocked on getting someone, and then I just would say, okay, why don't you do it? And they do a beautiful job. But you can pick that up in talking to people.
Yep. And someone mentioned municipal officers can be on the desk committee, which is absolutely true. The only thing to be careful of is your establishment.
Yeah,
If you're a charter township library, your township board cannot be on your yes committee because they're your governing board.
yeah.
Um, if you're a city section one, that's also a little bit dicey. So it depends on your establishment. So those are questions maybe to talk to your legal counsel with some of that stuff.
Right. Very good. Yeah. A lot of times we don't think of municipal elected officials thinking that, boy, I'd like to do that. We, a couple years ago had one, and we kind of nixed that as, no, that's not a good idea. But it's been rare, but I could see where that could happen. We've got some now county boards that think they should be a county commissioner and also a library board member. That issue is arising as we speak, but so far it hasn't come about, but it's out there. Um,
Um,
Go ahead.
there's one more question. Sorry. If an individual or group is spending their own money to campaign for or against the millage, at what point are they required to register as a ballot question committee so they don't run afoul of campaigns finance laws?
That is, I believe, $500, and then they have to form a committee. And I truthfully have never had that. I think it's been close, but we've never ever had that. And how much money is raised for the Yes Committee depends on how many printings you want to do. Keep in mind, the library can do a printing also. They pay for their own. That has nothing to do with the Yes Committee. They can mail out a brochure. In fact, if the Yes Committee, I suggest that immediately their mailing brochure should be before the ballot or the absentee ballot material goes out, which is 45 days before the millage. Um, Keep in mind, people can register absentee right up till election day, but many of them do it in a timely manner at the beginning of the campaign. And we're seeing more and more and more absentee ballots. And couple of people that I know work at polls said pretty soon they think they won't have a job because everything's absentee
Right.
ballot. So that is another issue. But we, I do suggest to the Yes Committee that if they want to do a mailing, it should be before the absentee ballots go uh, or are mailed to the voter so that they are aware of how to answer their ballot before they send it back, because you might have a message in there that they weren't aware of, or, well, I didn't know you were going to raise the millage. Uh, so we want everything, like I said, transparent out there for them to know. This is what is coming August 4 at the primary, and this is what is being um, advertised from the Yes Committee. And 99% of the Yes Committees have always done a mailing. Then the next mailing, because it's hard to raise a lot of funds and you want money for signs and some other things, that I suggest the um, library do the mailing, and they put together their own brochure, they put together their own material, their own pictures, their own whatever, and they do the mailing. Now that can go to everybody. That just don't go to the absentee voters. But that is the business of the library if they want to do that. So other than that, why, yeah, I think that is the best way to get the word out to the voters. We want to make sure that they're fully informed, that they know what is expected of them. In the meantime, you're going to have
So
a
I'm
question.
sorry, there's a couple questions. Um,
Oh, I guess.
so one person is asking, the Friends of the Library is exempt from having to form a ballot question committee because they are allowed to donate so much of their annual funds to the Yes Committee.
Yes, we've never had them form a committee.
So there is they how much a friends can donate is really dependent on a lot of things. So it's not necessarily true that they can donate a lot. It really depends on how much they make. It depends on how they're formed, if they're a 501c3. There's a lot of buts there.
Yep.
So I would say you really need to talk, they need to talk to their attorney, not the library attorney. They need to talk to their own nonprofit attorney about how much money they can invest. Um, and I would actually question the forming of the ballot committee. I know the $500 limit, but if they're like if they're there's two different things here. So it's the friends acting as the friends, and there's the friends acting as a yes committee. If the
Hmm.
friends are acting as the friends to support the millage, that's one thing. If the friends are creating the ballot, the yes committee, and it's more than $500, then they would have to register as a ballot question committee. So these are things I'd really run by the friend's attorney. Um, and as far as the yes ballot question committee, maybe the library's attorney, but I wouldn't assume that just because they're friends, they don't have to do these things. I think there's a lot of variables there.
There is a
Uh,
formula out from the federal
yes.
government that I have in my packets
Yep. And yep.
that they definitely need to
Yep.
follow.
And I have a link there on the handout too.
Good, good.
Um, and the As far as someone else asked, does the Yes Committee typically interact with the library's legal counsel directly? I'm going to let Shirley answer that. But if so, who pays? No, the library cannot pay for that. The ballot question committee would have to pay for that themselves. The library cannot spend any money on campaigning. None.
Right.
Not for the Yes Committee, not signs, not anything. So that's
Totally correct.
they
Yep.
can't even let the Yes Committee use the library copiers. Like it's
Nope.
really strict. Um, so yeah, Shirley, what about should they talk to the library's legal counsel? What do you think about that?
No. I think they need to contact their own. The contact for the legal counsel, the yes committee, but not, no, not any. Otherwise, the legal counsel would be overwhelmed with people calling them from wherever.
Right.
And so, no, we don't advocate doing that whatsoever. I think it's important that each do their own thing. I had a director a while back call me and she said, I told her different things that they can and cannot do, and she stored all the signs in her library till
Ooh.
election. It was time to put them out, and I said, "Oh my!" And she didn't get caught, but she wasn't going to do it this time.
Yeah.
Okay, that'd be a good idea. But
Um,
anyway,
and there was just a question about that. Can the library store any materials? No, the library may
oh,
not store anything for the Yes Committee, even after the election is over. It has
right.
to be in someone else's garage.
Yep,
Um,
definitely. And that should all be up front, designated right at the beginning. So there's no mix up that, well, you said we could do that. No, I did not. Just like you got to have a neutral site for meetings. And sometimes I had one location, they couldn't come up with a legal site, so, or a separate site. So this one senior citizen, she said, somebody comes and mops my floor, you can meet at my house every week. So that's how we did that. But anyway,
um,
no, those are important
one
things.
other, how can we use library dollars for information about the millage?
That is up to the library. The Yes Committee cannot use 1 cent
But
for literature or for anything else.
but the library can use it to create their own informational info
Right. That's what
and
I
to
said
do the right
earlier.
and to
Yeah.
do their own mailing of that informational literature.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we said earlier. That is important that if they want to do a mailing, and I think it's really good if they do. I have copies from many, many libraries where the library did a mailing and the Yes Committee did a mailing. Same thing with putting letters to the editor. That is very important that that is done by the Yes Committee. If someone from the library board or the library, yeah, the board or the staff want to do that, that's totally separate from our Yes Committee. But I do emphasize that doing a letter to the editor is a great way to advertise your campaign without spending money. And we have found them to be very successful. A lot of
Sh
places don't have newspapers anymore, but
we're gonna answer one more, we're gonna do one more question, then I'm gonna let Shirley get back on track here. Can the library use the voter lists that are gathered by the Yes Committee to send their own mailers? Or does the library have to get their own lists?
they have to get their own list. We don't share material that way. And everything is separate. And you want to keep it separate. We don't want any stepping over the line. I think it is so important that everything is, there is a couple brochures out about legal issues with yes committees, with millage campaigns, and we want to stick to the letter with that. And I really emphasize that. If I'm coaching your committee, you'll hear that quite often, that there's no stepping over the line. It is very important that we have everything legal, open, and that timetables are followed to a T, and there will be different timetables. And so that is what we want to do. And like I said, there is many different functions. The more people that want to be on the committee, not necessarily the main committee, but subcommittees, there's always room. And it's not going to the library to tell people to vote yes. Staff can, of course, staff, if they live in the community, they can do anything off premises. They can't at the library say, we want you to vote yes, or we want you to vote no, or there's no participation that way. They can donate to the campaign. That is okay also, but they may not participate in a yes fashion. However, when they go home, anywheres once they leave the premise of the library, they can be a yes person, just like any of us that are a part of the community. How are we doing with the chats? Pretty good?
We're good. Yep, we're good.
All right. So we go back, we have gotten it on the ballot. We have informed the community of what we're doing, why we're doing it. And in the ballot language will be the amount of the amount being requested for the millage campaign. Remember, the more you add to it, and some are adding to it, but it's only because they took it away before through different measures that the county and the state asked the library to do. So now they want to get it back. So we have that as part of our increase in our millage. And if it's below 0.05 increase, it can still go on the one ballot with your other language. And so the more you ask for, I've got one that wants to ask for 1.5 mils and or 1.7 mils, but the 7 would require a second ballot. The other thing is that's going to be a lot more work when you've got those second ballots. So there's things to look at. We've been getting pretty good state aid, and we're lucky that we are. But that can stop at any time. We don't know when the federal government takes away or puts it back, and so you have to make sure you've done your budget before you come up with an amount that you want on the ballot. And that is the board and the director is doing that. And that is before the committee kicks off their campaign. If I help you, I do it free. I always have folders and calling cards and whatever. But I would stress to you a lot of what I'm saying now, I would stress to you when we do these millage campaigns. And many of you are doing them on your own. Many of you have my brochures from over the years. And so, and that's fine. But I think it's important that we create an image of what we're trying to um, get the yes voter to vote for. And that is where we want to be very, very thorough in our material that is going out. And in my case, like I said, I have brochures from other libraries. 99% of them, it worked. And so I keep their brochures and I share them with the next group. But no, I think most people love their libraries. We have some small communities with large agricultural areas, and those are obviously a little bit more um, hardship on the farmer. And so we kind of handhold and work special with them. But it is, I had one community that the farmer owned, I think, half of the millage area. But bless his heart, his wife was chair of the library board. So we were able to pass it. And then afterwards, he provided a wagon and they had a parade, a thank you parade. It was really neat. So different folks have different ideas and like I said, choosing the names, but everything that is applied to a timetable, make sure that you follow that, like getting the message on the ballot and getting your mailings in a timely manner, putting the signs out. I recommend the signs go out 3 weeks ahead of the millage election. Some people want them out the whole time, but they don't stay out if you put them out too early. They become garage sale signs. And so 3 weeks before works really well. Another thing we started a couple years ago is the weekend before the election that churches, McDonald's, Burger, whoever, some hardware stores will put up on their brochures, remember to vote for your library. They don't have to say vote yes. Remember to vote for your library August 4th. And that has gone really good where small communities have very little funding. They don't have big Myers and big stores to go to ask for money and donations. So we went that route, and it has been uh, very well accepted. And the advertisers are more than happy to do that. And that is their contribution, of course, to the campaign. But publicity, publicity, publicity. You can never have too much publicity. Be aware of what is in the brochure so that if you want to quote that, okay, you're going to have some naysayers too that are going to give you a hard time about the election. Those we say thank you for your input, but do not debate the issue. Do not argue with them. That is a non-winner. So we always say just walk away. If you want to do door to door, and we always did in Kent County because we've got several cities within the county system, but That is something that you'd have to keep in mind because it involves like door knockers, door hangers, and that's usually done on a Saturday morning. And we tell them not to knock on the door if the house is dark. We don't want to wake anybody from their Saturday sleep in. But anyway, we have found that that is, and it's amazing how many people love to come out and help do that. I would set it up at churches and have snacks and stuff and have their handouts for them. And another way to publicity. So there are any number of ways to get the ad out. Um, this mentions paid advertisement. Sometimes the radios will do it free. And the banners to vote and thank you. A lot of that stuff can be done free. All we got to do is ask. I found that out that a lot of people will respond on the free side, but you got to ask. They won't come say, "You want to do this? We'll let you do it." No, they want you to ask, and of course, then you patronize that business also. Anyone else that has questions?
Yep. Can the library provide contact information to patrons for the Yes Committee if asked?
That's a good question, Claire. I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do. I know they've called each other and so forth, but yeah, I'm sure that or they could say, I can't give you that information. Maybe here's a name. I don't know if that would come under the legal title or not, but yeah, I that is a very good question after all these years. I should check that out
Yeah,
more.
I think you could probably like post something. I would probably not hand out like
Oh no,
brochures or something saying contact the Yes Committee.
no,
But if the Yes Committee has a website or the Yes Committee has a social media, or the Friends is involved, then I would say the library could refer them to those entities.
that's the other thing I
But
did
you don't want to solicit help.
Oh, is the social media. That has increased tremendously since I started this 25 years ago or more now. But yes, no, we do encourage a social media site. Some also have PayPal for donations for funding. So yes, no, we definitely, the first, oh, I bet first 10 years, we did not do social media. The library did, but we did not as Yes Committee. But we do now, definitely. And like I said, the bigger communities also do PayPal. Obviously, the treasurer opens a checking account. One of the other facts we left out was the checking account. You have to have an EIN number, and it's really simple to go online and get that. And a checking account is opened, and that has to be done the same time the ballot language goes in or before, because that will be on your material to the county. They want that information. And of course, there again, it'll be under the address and the name of the committee for the Yes Committee. It is a joy always to work with Claire because she is very knowledgeable and knows the legal side of it. I've had some real um, legal issues that have come up that I have people to turn to ask. I welcome input from the committee. That way I know they're working on it and that they're being active with what they're doing. So there's a lot that is going on, and it's not near as difficult as it seems. At the time when I first meet with people, oh, I don't know. I don't know. But no, it isn't. My email is on here, my phone number is on there, and feel free to take advantage of them. I'm pretty much home most of the time. But I think the main thing is to get yourself a good committee, no matter the size. And once people see each other working on it and what they're able to um, learn from it, more and more people are always, well, hey, I'd like to be on that committee, or I would like to join. Or, and of course, everyone is a fundraiser. Make sure they get their money to the treasurer. And what I always did was carried some envelopes with the treasurer's name and address on. And if somebody said anything about contributing, I'd hand them an envelope and they can put it in the mail. If you want to, you can put your own stamps on there, and that way they're for sure we'll mail it then. So there's any number of ways to make this a productive yes campaign. And like I said, I always, when they ask me if I will help them, yep, but you got to promise me you'll win. Well, I just say we want to follow the rules to the nth degree. And once we do that, we don't have anybody coming back and saying, well, you did this wrong or you did that wrong. We want to be extremely out in the open with everything we do and say. Thing too with your millage campaigns, invite your legislators. Have them come to one of your meetings or invite them to the library, even though you wouldn't be there as the yes committee, but make them aware of what you're doing, why you need the funding that you're asking for, why you need there to participate on uh, a legislative level. There are a number of library or legislators who don't have a clue what the library does. I've met with some of them and, well, what is this? Well, what I never heard of that. We want them to hear of it. We want them to know that that is out there. There's a lot of issues with libraries, and we want the legislator to be aware of it.
Shirley, I have a question. We still have a few more minutes because we actually are scheduled till 3:30. So in all of your years of doing this and working with the S committees and that, what are the major red flags, the major problems that you see yes committees encountering, or you see the mistakes that they made? What are the number one mistakes?
A lot of it is just the fundraising, where, what we do and why we do it. The other is getting people to register to vote. I ask them, to make sure that they promote that. They think, oh, this group will be a good, well, they're not even registered to vote. So uh, that is some of the main. We make sure that we keep everything out in the open. Uh, Transparency is a big word for me to promote, because we want to be as open as our library doors, so to speak.
So what happens if you have a yes committee and they have money left over that they didn't spend? Where does that money go?
I've had that question too many times. Um, I suggest that together they make a commitment on, do they want to give it to the friends? Do they want to buy some special material, donate it to the library? That is entirely up to them. But don't spend it until you make sure every bill is paid. No, there are several ways, but most all of them donate it back to the friends group that I've been involved in. No, those are good questions. Thank
So
you. I just think the enthusiasm for the library is out there, and
Okay, we are at 3:16. Does anybody have any additional questions? And you can unmute if you like, since we're at the end.
thank you very, very much, everybody.
Thanks a lot to Shirley for giving us the time and her infinite wisdom. We very much appreciate
Oh,
it.
yeah.
And we hope to talk to you all soon. I hope everyone's millage goes really well.
Again, you bet.